So that's a quick introduction from a business standpoint. Let's go quickly into the technology part of it. I'll give a couple of seconds so that the slides, so that you all can see the slides. So what is Hadoop? Hadoop is the technology behind big data. And very often big data and Hadoop are used interchangeably, so don't be surprised. And Hadoop, as I mentioned, was invented by Doug Cutting. And he named it after the toy of his infant son, I guess. So that's how the name came up, Hadoop. And that's why you see the elephant symbol everywhere, wherever Hadoop comes up. So Doug Cutting was actually given this task by Yahoo when they were facing problems with searching through some information, large volumes of unstructured data, text files. So he came up with this project, and it was actually at that time Nutch was the project actually, that is the search engine. And then subsequently they made it open source, and it is kind of a part of Apache now. So this is a platform to manage big data because it has several components to it. And if you go down to the brass tacks, it's actually a bunch of APIs and libraries that are available. And it really helps in distributed computing. So that is the primary crux of Hadoop, basically. It is used for distributed computing. The only major difference between, and again, distributed computing is probably not new, but the primary difference is that this is distributed computing in such a way that the program and the data are at the same place. So you have a cluster, and the program runs on a particular node along with the data there, compared to a distributed computing in olden days in mainframes, where all the processing used to happen in one place and the data was in another place. Plus, the other big advantage is that this can run on commodity hardware. Unlike a mainframe, for example, that is very expensive, runs on very expensive hardware. In case some of you are not aware, you can run Hadoop on your laptop in a pseudo cluster mode, of course. And to set up a cluster, you need just maybe a few laptops. So that is the major advantage of Hadoop. And of course, it is, since it is open source, the software is free. So those are the various advantages of Hadoop, and that is what Hadoop is. And there are several components within Hadoop. Again, I'll give a couple of seconds for the screen to refresh on your side. So one of the main components is HDFS, which is Hadoop Distributed File System. And then you have a paradigm called MapReduce. Now, very often people confuse it with a programming language. Just a caution, this is not a programming language, it is a paradigm. It is some people call it as a pattern, but it's more a paradigm or a set of APIs. If you use this, you can write your programs. Programming can be done in any of the languages. Java is the most popular one. It helps you in parallelizing the processes. So that is the main advantage of using MapReduce. So HDFS and MapReduce are the two major components of Hadoop. In addition, of course, you have a couple of other, not a couple, a few other tools like HBase, which is a database, NoSQL database. And then you have what is known as a data warehouse, which is Hive. And then you have Pig, Maho, and so on. So there are several components available to, to help in doing some of the other parts, right? So that's why it is a framework. That's why it's called as a platform because there are several other components available. So this is a quick representation of HDFS. So basically what HDFS does is that when you have a large volume of data, let's say you have a huge file and you want to bring it into the HDFS or Hadoop, it basically, number one, splits it into smaller blocks and then distributes this across the node in such a way that there is also redundancy, so that if there is any one particular node fails, data is not lost. So all these data redundancy and the distribution, the splitting, and all this is automatically taken care of by HDFS. So that is the main advantage. So basically it is as the name suggests, it is a distributed file system. So you have a cluster of 100 nodes. So HDFS takes care of distributing this data across these 100 nodes and taking care of redundancy and node failure and so on. So that's a brief introduction about HDFS. What is MapReduce? So MapReduce is the